David, are you recording?
Yes, I am.
That's great. Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight number 325. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by David Francisco, and we're back today with another television show to discuss. In the ramp-up to the highly anticipated debut of Loki, the new Disney Plus and Marvel Studios series, David and I have taken the month-ish long hiatus of Marvel content to dive into some other television shows that we have heard a lot about. We just finished a 2-week segment series on Invincible, the animated series by Robert Kirkman, currently streaming on Amazon Prime Video, of which I think all of us here highly recommend you go out and listen to not just our episodes, of course, but then also watch the show itself, because it is phenomenal. It is undoubtedly the best show of the year. Might very well be the best show, regardless of what else comes out. And so I would, it's great. It's a great show. And today we are talking about another animated series that is primarily, I would say almost at some point exclusively made for adults. Not only does it feature gratuitous violence, but it has plenty of profanity and nudity, I guess. I don't know nudity, but there's a lot of sex, I guess. I mean, as much as you think there would be, but you know, it is what it is. And that is Harley Quinn. We're talking about Harley Quinn, the animated series. It's been going on for 2 years now. It first debuted in 2019 on the DC Universe streaming service. Of course, we have a legacy subscriber of the former DC Universe streaming service, and David here. Before it permanently shuttered. Well, it didn't shutter. It just transitioned into being a streaming service only dedicated to comics, like a digital library for comic books, the DC comic books. And since the original programming that was on the service, like Titans and Doom Patrol and Harley Quinn, have since moved to continuing on the HBO Max streaming service. Season 2 actually aired last year. I think it was in the middle or the early part of last year, and it was renewed for season 3. And when that will return, I'm not so sure. But there was a lot of really good things I heard about this show. And I don't know, I guess I was just in the mood to actually watch some DC content that was good for a change. I don't necessarily mean that as a put down. I kind of view it as it's just stating the sad state of things, as it were, with the DC franchise. There are, and there have been many projects under the DC brand that have been released in the last 10 years. Plenty of movies, so many TV shows across many networks. And yet, for all of that, after having seen the 2 seasons that are currently available for this show, feels very strongly, and I had discussed this with Peter to some extent, the episode at the recording of this, which between you and I, David, hasn't dropped quite yet, but we had recorded a previous conversation, and I threw out there the idea that this is quite easily the single best quality content as far as anything TV show or movie related in DC in the last 10 years.
Dang.
Again, from my perspective, that isn't saying much. when you consider the rest of the pack, right?
Uh-huh.
Now, I haven't seen all of what you have seen. I know you've seen a lot more in terms of what the TV show offerings are. I've yet to see Doom Patrol. I haven't seen Titans. I haven't seen really any of the CW DC shows. So I can't speak to that. But what I can speak for is just about all of the movies. We're talking Dark Knight Rises, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Justice League, Wonder Woman 1984, Aquaman, Shazam. And what did I watch the TV shows? I didn't watch Titans. No. I watched Lego Batman movie. That has DC characters, and I really love that film. But like, Birds of Prey. I forgot that movie existed. Birds of Prey has Harley Quinn. Yeah, I watched Birds of Prey, and it was. And you see, how did I forget that one? And that was perhaps better than most of those titles that I threw out there. It's just sad, and it's also been a decade of just missed opportunity after missed opportunity, mixed in with disappointment. And so, like, I can't think of anything that really rivals the quality of the writing when it comes to this show. Just first and foremost, getting that out of the way with. It just doesn't compare. I think what this show basically is, I'm trying to come up with my own words of how to like explain what this show is, right? So we're imagine the most recognizable interpretation of these long-standing DC characters: Harley Quinn, Batman, Joker, Superman. Think of them as, let's say, they were from the famous Batman animated series or Justice League animated series or Superman. Think of it as if they're from that world, but like a different spin on them, where it is a lot more adult in that you see murder and blood and stabbings and shootings and and it has a lot of sex and talk of sex and a whole bunch of stuff. And it does this thing where, I really generally agree with the consensus by some, like Patrick Willems, for example. He is a famous video essayist, if that's what we're going to call them now, this genre of YouTuber, and where he says that, superhero content made for adults almost seems to miss the point of the genre in the first place. And I have a lot that I agree with him on that. Harley Quinn, though, seems to be the exception to the rule, because I think most of the content, let's say, in the superhero genre that is designed for adults doesn't really land all that well. I think Zack Snyder in particular, he really, I felt, made the movies that he made with DC with a different audience in mind than I think the original comic writers had intended, for those readers to be. And with Harley Quinn, it is very clearly made for adults, but it so commits to what it's doing, and it also does not at all feel the need to be complacent. For the most part, it is a comedy. It is a sitcom, weirdly enough, because it has Harley Quinn and it has her wacky crew, her wacky crew of characters, of some of the unlikeliest of, pulling from some of the long-standing, hallowed halls, the rogues gallery, as they say, of DC villains. And, it almost just plays like a Harley Quinn and Friends sitcom, and watching them try and, be the top supervillains in Gotham. And if it sounds as crazy as it is, like, I think on paper, that might sound like, ooh, I don't know about that. Like, you're really gonna do something like this? And yet, the humor in here is so, it comes from a place of brilliance, I feel. It really does what a lot of great sitcoms do, and that is, it pulls from pop culture. If you love pop culture references, but good pop culture references, you're gonna love a lot of the crap that they have here. They have some amazing gags, some great one-liners. But unlike, I think, a lot of other shows in this space where it's like nihilistic, there is a beating heart at the center of this show. There is wonderful character work done with Harley Quinn and her friendship with Poison Ivy, and then also getting you invested in this ensemble and getting you to actually care about what happens to them, and also even rooting for them. They're super villains, by the way, and you like them, and you really do like them. It's another one of these things where, oh yeah, this is a show / movie, whatever, about the bad guys. They're the main characters. And usually how Hollywood, I say Hollywood, in general, usually how they like to play these things is, oh, we'll make it about the villain, but we'll give them a sympathetic backstory, and so we'll turn them into an anti-hero of sorts. And maybe you could argue with Harley Quinn, they do something like that. I mean, they don't really give you anything sympathetic about her background. But at times, you don't feel like she's the big, bad, evil supervillain. At times, she comes across as a really messed up underdog that you just can't help to root for, because she seems to be the least evildoer among the League, or the League of Villains, or the Legion of Villains. Again, she still is a murderer. She still is psychotic. Yeah. That is who Harley Quinn is. They don't necessarily walk back any of that. And yet, there is a lot to like about this interpretation of Harley Quinn. And if we're comparing this based off, the recent projects, because, the popularity of that character has so exploded. If we're going to compare this to something like Birds of Prey, and Suicide Squad, Margot Robbie is I think is perfect as Harley Quinn. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see her in a good movie for a change. When James Gunn, takes her on in the Suicide Squad film later this year. But this is just miles better than anything in the DC output machine. Honestly, while this show at the same time is so brilliant, and at the same time it just puts a spotlight on how lesser everything else has been in this era, in this decade of the last couple of years for DC. I hope this show sticks around for a while. It doesn't feel like it's going to wear out its welcome like some other shows does. I think it's very tight with its storytelling. It doesn't drag things out too long. It gets to the proper storylines and arc in a way that I don't see the show going on for 5-6+ seasons, because of how tidy, I guess, they are with, their screen time. There's 13 episodes per season. Which is the perfect length, honestly, for these. A lot of the episodes are episodic. Some are more serialized. They do a big, splashy finale both years that really catches you off guard, which the show does do generally well. But you know what also the show doesn't lose is also the, I don't know if novelty is the right word to use here, but if there's just something so surreal in watching these famous characters. Again, it only just reminds you of just how much more the DC comics library has to offer in terms of characters. And yet, where have they been the last 10 years? Anyway, but it is something surreal to see them in this kind of environment, in this kind of I don't know if surreal or hyper real or hyper characteristic is the right way to describe this. It's a very animated world, as they usually inhabit, but it is far more raunchy. It is far more obscene with some things, and it does it really well. does it really well, and there's some genuine connection in there that you can actually latch onto. They do a much more effective job of getting you to care about these characters than most, I would say, if not all, of the DC projects that have come out in the last 10 years.
Mm.
Now, that was a good, 15 minutes of me just splattering on and on about my initial impressions of this show. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to go to David to let us know what he feels as far as his overall feelings on this show. And can you also include where you first heard of it and what got you to watch the show in the first place?
Mm-hmm. See if I can go for 10 minutes. Let's try to go for that.
By the way, I wasn't trying to go that long. I wasn't. I was just trying to get all of the points out there in a concise way as possible. But like Peter always says, it's never concise because I just drone on and on and on. But at the very least, I hope the point was made clear.
Yeah. So when did I hear about it? No, I think it just kind of like popped up in the DC universe app thing. And I do remember watching a trailer for it, and I was just kind of like, oh, I think this is really cool, especially because, like you said, Harley Quinn during this time, like she was getting really, really popular. People wanted like more stuff of her. They really wanted her to have a story where she gets away from the Joker. Like actually, like, let's get a good story with that. And so when I saw that, like, oh, they were making it violent and everything, and I kind of liked Kaylee Cuoco as voicing Harley Quinn. I was kind of curious what she was going to do with it. And then once I started watching it, for one thing, she was great in this role. I think she was really perfect for this one, specifically for this one. And I just started loving it. Watched every single episode, every single week. And it just blew my mind. And now when you said best DC property in the past 10 years, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you on that, because there are some shows that I'm loving, like Superman and Lois. It's back on television after its hiatus, and I mean, as much as I love that show, Harley Quinn is just like it's just something else, something special, because they really take the time to kind of like make her own character and really take the time to like properly give her a character arc, which is that she wants to become one of the best villains in this world, but also she wants to get away from the Joker, try to like become her own woman. And I absolutely love the journey that she took, and they did an amazing job of just kind of building up this world and its characters, give each character like just something unique about them. And for what you said about if it's, you don't know if it's gonna like, this can be something that can last for a long time, I think it could, if they really like stick to not being afraid to kind of like make some changes, like kill off some characters, even some of the superheroes maybe. I can't remember if they do, but like I know they kill off some characters that was kind of like insane at the time. But I like, I really hope they do try to kind of like not be afraid to make those kinds of changes or anything in this show. And I really think they could. People complain about it. I don't give a shit. Like, it's the Harley Quinn show. Like, come on. You got like 50 other shows all about Batman, all about the Justice League. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. And in terms of the comedy, what I really love about it, like you said, yeah, there's some what was it you said? Reference. There are some cool references and all that, but also like they I think it's really cool that they really get into the mind of Harley Quinn of like what she would actually say in certain situations and all that. But also, like, again, they make the characters really unique. There's King Shark, they just keep making different interpretations about him. Like in this one, he's like just kind of like a really like a sweet villain in a way. But then like you see him in the Flash and he's just straight up a monster. and then now with the Suicide Squad coming out, he's just more of a I don't know how you spell like a dumb, like just a dumb monster, almost kind of mindless in a way. I think it's just funny that we keep making different interpretations about him. But yeah, then they just sort of, in a weird way, the show, to kind of keep you connected to Harley, they keep showing you that she's not the worst villain in this whole world. There's some really bad people, and there's an entire episode about that. And I don't know, I think they just do a great job balancing out that, like, she's still a bad guy. She can get arrested at some point, but also, like, it's really cool to root for her because you kind of want to see what happens to her in the very end.
Yeah. By the way, this is the part now where there are going to be some spoilers here. Mm-hmm. But I will say, like, for this kind of show, I don't know if I care that much about spoilers. Unlike compared to other shows where like there are some big giveaways that you don't want to reveal because it may threaten to lessen your enjoyment of something. Mm-hmm. But one of the, you said about how we root for Harley Quinn, like there was something so special at toward the end of season 2 where it was weird. You saw Harley Quinn team up with the Joker, who at that point they were pretty much enemies now, mm-hmm. and Batman. They all teamed up to save the. Think about this: Harley Quinn, the Joker, and Batman teamed up to free the Justice League from an imprisoned magical storybook. Where else have you seen that? Where else have you seen anything like that? You're
never gonna get anything like that on anything else. And like again, like this is why I think this show can last for like a long time. I mean, I'm hoping that they know when to end it, like right. when to like give her a good ending and all that. But if they're not afraid to make any of these changes, then they can just keep this going for like a really long time.
They could. But something else just occurred to me, and again, I don't mean to put down people who enjoy the DC films of the last 10 years. If you like those movies, as we say with anything else that any of the cast of the panel here doesn't like, it's not for me. I don't care for it, and I'm going to say some not so nice things about it because that's how I feel. But if you feel differently, good for you. You are more than allowed to like what you like, and nothing that I say invalidates how you feel. Just as a general reminder, because I guess I keep bringing this up, and some listeners might think that it's as if I'm treating it like a piñata, and I might be, but I had alluded to earlier how in some ways the show kind of makes it even more obvious how the Warner Brothers team completely, I'm going to say it, fucked up their attempt at a cinematic universe, because you basically get that with Harley Quinn. Like, you get to see Harley Quinn interact with not just all the Batman villains, but you have the Justice League are there, and you have villains of other, like just Black Manta. There's Lex Luthor. There's Bane. There's a whole bunch of people walking around.
There's Calendar Man.
There's Calendar Man. There's Condiment Man. Oh, there's a thing.
Condiment King.
Condiment King. There's Kite Man. I've never even heard of fucking Kite Man.
Really?
But when I was introduced to it, I was like, okay. Of course, there's a DC villain called Kite Man. Of course, there is. So it's like, I'm going to assume, like, I knew there was a King Shark at this point. Clearly, I wasn't that well aware of Psycho. I, of course, was aware to an extent of Poison Ivy. Clayface is one that's new to me. I don't know. I assume that's a older character. I don't think there are any new characters to the show, are there?
No, I don't think there's any new characters, and I'm not sure how far back what is his name, Clayface, goes, but he's very different from his comic.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. You know, it's hilarious. So the basic catalyst for the show, just to catch those up, is Harley Quinn breaking up with the Joker. And I think if you've seen Birds of Prey, some would say that, oh, that sounds like Birds of Prey. That sounds like, you know, how that movie starts off with. Only it's so much better this time.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's not to knock down the movie or anything. It's just that they have way more time to, again, develop Harley Quinn as a character. But they also have like a lot more to play with. Yeah,
there's a lot of Birds of Prey that really isn't about Harley Quinn. That's the problem with the movie, you know, where Harley Quinn, she gets the limelight. But it's really hilarious because so she breaks up with the Joker after he has betrayed her for the umpteenth time. She forms a friendship with Poison Ivy in Arkham, and they bust out together. And with the help of Ivy, Harley decides to go on her own and become her own supervillain instead of being the sidekick to Joker. In the previous animated spaces, she was exclusively Joker's right-hand man, basically. And it kind of reminded me. Now, I don't know. I got a couple of these vibes, especially since like Joker just stick around for the show for a long time. You've seen Kim Possible, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. Granted, I think it's been a while. It's been a minute since I've seen Kim Possible. It's been a long time. But I did see it in its original run. I remember they did a storyline in its 4th season. You know, the 4th season was the last season. And they did a storyline where Shigo went on her own and split from Dr. Draken. And I don't think they got back together as a team up until the very end, but it basically was along the similar lines where Shigo was like, you know what? I do everything. I'm just your muscle. And you know what? I'm much more than that. Fuck you. I'm getting out of here and I'm doing my own thing. Which is what Harley does. Only in this instance with Harley, she's actually coming at from her perspective what she perceived to be a romantic relationship. Of course, if you know the history, it's a very one-sided romantic relationship. It was never something that Joker ever really took seriously in that regard. It was a classic case of Stockholm Syndrome, as people have always said, you know, the Joker and Harley Quinn. And I loved the premise. It's like, all right, Harley Quinn playing with the big boys here, you know, breaking off on her own. Because it also made you think that, especially when you see like a lot of the big name Batman villains remind me, what was it, the damn name of the organization again? The Legion of Evil, the League of Evil, the
Legion of Doom.
Okay. The Legion of Doom, there it is. A lot of the villains, a lot of the big villains are all guys. If I think back to myself, right? There's, you know, Lex Luthor, there's Joker, there's Scarecrow, Bane, Penguin, Riddler, Dr. Freeze, Two-Face. Like, you begin to realize, like, oh, wait a minute. Like, there's never really been, like, a female big boss, basically, for, like, the rogues gallery of the DC villains. And I guess one of the bigger players was Cheetah. Nowhere to be found in the series.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, right? Because I remember your sister telling me once that Cheetah was like one of the big DC villains, especially for Wonder Woman. And only, of course, everybody was enraged because no one seemed to like how she was handled in the Wonder Woman sequel. So there is that. but no, it obviously is a big seed change, especially for Harley to do this. But what's also hilarious is, you know, how in over her head she is. Like, she's capable, but then also she's kind of forced to form a band of misfits in a way, you know? Like, the main ensemble is this weird cavalcade of people that you would never imagine work together. And in most cases, they're there because no one else really wants them. They're just kind of, they all are in this place where, like, man, like, my career as a supervillain is just god awful. And I guess if I team up with Harley Quinn as part of her crew, which I guess, and the show gets into this at some point, is a step up from henchmen and goons. So I guess if you're a crew member, you're higher than a goon or, you know, a henchman. So who are these poor souls that she collects? Well, Ivy you'd think would be the first one, but she spends most of the series being a happy cheerleader to Harley and her endeavors with her crew, but she's very resistant to be a part of a group because that's just not her thing. Or as she says, it's not part of her brand. She has her own brand of villainy, which is hilarious because she is basically this principled socialist and environmentalist, and she, you know, takes pride in the fact that she kills, you know, bankers that pollute the planet. That's also part of the humor in this too. Like, a lot of the villains have like hilarious principles to their mass murder. You know, there was this amazing example in which another one of the crew members, Psycho, the reason why he is apparently Psycho is one of the big villains as far as Wonder Woman is concerned, and why he's so reduced to being part of a crew in the first place. I can't even say it because it's so funny, man. You know?
So, well, basically, he fought Wonder Woman, and at one point, like, just Wonder Woman just kind of, like, hits him right in the face and everything, and he says a very bad word towards her. It was the C word, and everyone's just like, and somehow people started to cancel him because of that.
A mass murderer, by the way. And this is what gets him canceled.
And then I can't remember how I led to this, but, like, you know, Harley kind of was like watching this on the news and everything, and Dr. Psycho was trying to get, I guess, back to the good graces of people, like become a good villain, I guess.
He was going on an apology tour, basically.
Yeah, an apology tour. But he accidentally said it again. That word.
He did. he said it. Like, he said it again on a live talk show.
Yeah. Towards his wife or something, and it's just like it was not going well for him at all. And at one point, the Legion of Doom were like, we did not condone the actions of Dr. Psycho. He would no longer be part of the Legion of Doom. And, like, somehow that the C word is like their limit of, like, bad guy. But they're okay with, like, it's okay if they murder all these kinds of people. Like, it doesn't matter to us. But the C word, though, the C word, nah, we can't.
I was laughing so hard, you know, when Lex Luthor was at that press conference and he said that Dr. Psycho does not represent our brand of evil. Jesus Christ.
It's so funny. They just, like, they just know how to, like, keep some of the jokes grounded somehow. It's so funny. Like, I remember one of the first ones that, like, that really made me laugh. It was when Harley, like, just finished wrecking Joker's lair.
Yeah.
And Poison Ivy was just, like, right there going, like, good job, you go, girl. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna get some Chinese food. Do you want anything? It's like, oh, yeah, just give me some sushi rolls or something. Like, I don't know what kind specific. And she's like, okay, just text me. It's like, why? I just told you, just can I get it? Like, no, I know, but like, text me because I'm gonna forget, and then I'm not gonna know what you ordered and all that. It's like, okay, fine, I'll text you. It's just a little conversation, but like, that happens to me all the time. Like, I tell this to my parents. They always want me to get stuff from the store after work, and I'm like, okay, cool, text me. They never do, and I'm like, and I remember they want something as soon as I get to my car, and I'm like, I'm already in my car. I'm not gonna go back.
There's also great moments of absurdist humor. I guess it's the way to call this. Like one of the recent episodes where Harley and Joker are trying to break out of Wayne Tower, they try to break through some of Riddler's henchmen, and Harley thinks she's grabbing a gun to kill the henchmen. And she grabs what the show is calling a cancer ray. she blasts the guy with the cancer ray, and then she's like, "Who even makes this? Who would even make something like this?"
But I love that guy's reaction though too. It's like, Harley Quinn, you gave me cancer, so I'm gonna go home to my family now. And it's like as he runs away, she's just like, I'm so sorry. Like she's okay with like breaking these guys' bones and everything, just like give them massive internal damage. But giving him cancer is when she's like, oh my god, what did I do?
Oh my god. Like, oh no, I guess we're just gonna like stream of conscious just talk about moments that were just so ridiculously, like I was cackling when I think it was Harvey Dent or Two-Face had captured Harley Quinn and Ivy in the middle of season 2 because they were eliminating the League of Evil, I guess. They had renamed themselves. And they had assembled this kangaroo court. Kangaroo court basically is like a rigged trial where it's just for show. It's all performative. And I was cackling when fucking Bane walked out with a judge's wig and a robe. And just like the complete image of it was so absurd, which by the way, anything with Bane in this show is gold. It's just gold. Like anything he says, the dialogue in general is great across the board. It goes hand in hand with the writing, clearly. But man, there are just some scenes where I'm just looking at Bane and I'm just like cracking myself up. Like there was the wedding, the wedding of Kite Man and Ivy. There was just, this cutaway to the audience in attendance, and there was in the background you see Bane with a fucking top hat as like his like he has his like villainous outfit, but he has a top hat, to signify his attire for a wedding. And I was just laughing. He was like, okay, this is so absurd, but it works so well.
My favorite thing about his character though is that they didn't make him like his comic counterpart. They kept Nolan's Bane basically. So he has the voice. I think at one point he does go like, I am the darkness or something like, I don't know, I can't do his voice. I'm not gonna try, but like, oh my god. But yeah, you're right. Like every line he says, it's just so funny, especially because of the voice. Like it's so absurd.
That by the way, that's the legacy of that third Nolan movie is Bane. You can tell how much of an impact that character had. I can't even tell you how many times fucking Kyle has put his hands over his mouth to mimic the sound and the tone of Bane, because of course we all know that that's the sound of it, and it's that voice. Honestly, it's the Bane that leapt off that movie. Only in this case, he's really like. There are times where you just feel bad for him because he's just the butt of the joke. For so many, like there are like so many instances where like Joker or Scarecrow or Riddler just flat out call him, dumb as rocks. And then there's this gag in season 2 in the League of Evil where all the main members have like these big high chairs, but they just gave him like a little fold chair only for Bane because he wasn't just to fuck with.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh my god, it's so funny. And again, like they did a pretty cool job of what they did with all these characters. I think I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but like his character kind of ended with him kind of becoming good. Oh no, he became like a warden of a prison, right?
That's the other thing. He was in that episode I mentioned where he was the judge. He was also the warden of a prison. Mm-hmm. That thing was so weird but so funny. So it's like, Bane's pit. He's running this prison, but like, it's a good prison. Like the West of the weird. It's like it's kind of what a prison is supposed to do, which is to rehabilitate people from their worst impulses. Like he was actually doing a pretty great job as a warden. Ironically, like literally, unironically, it was like what you would think a prison is supposed to do, not just be, a byproduct of the prison industrial complex where you just lock people up, to make money, and then you do nothing at all to fix, their problems or to help them. Whereas in this instance, Bane was like almost treating, like when he was like giving Harley and Ivy a tour of the facility, it felt like he was like showing them like as if they were at like summer day camp or something. Like it was it was, I don't know, I was happy that he was spared and he wasn't like killed off, because as you mentioned earlier, there are some surprising deaths. Like there's some big names that are like very clearly like killed off, and it's not one of these shows where like death means nothing. No, they make a point to show you like when someone fucking dies, they're fucking dead. Like one of the ones that was surprising, well, it would have been surprising toward the end of season 1 if it weren't for like, I guess, the final moments. But it got to a point where I was like, are they really going to kill the Joker here? Because at that point they've established, well, they already killed Scarecrow, they killed the Queen of Fables, and then one of the more, I would say, explicit examples, Harley basically using the Penguin's umbrella to impale his head early on in season 2. Like she's just after biting off his nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Freeze also, that's a different thing. Continue.
Well, I was gonna say I think the first like big death, I guess, was Scarecrow, if you remember. He basically they were like, no, they caught the Batman. Joker was like, oh man, like I just wish I could just take off the mask and see who's underneath. And Scarecrow's just like, let's do it, and he takes it off. But Joker's just like, why would you do that? Like, the best thing about a relationship is that we don't know who the other person is. Like, why would you take off the mask? And the Joker just kills Scarecrow right there and then.
And he says immediately after, even that wasn't fun.
Yeah. I think I found out actually, Scarecrow, voiced by Raul Cully. I think that's how you say his name. Yeah, he's the guy from Bly Manor, the chef.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I like that actor. He was great in Bly Manor. Go watch Bly Manor too, by the way. Not enough. I mean, it wasn't as great as Hill House, but it was still pretty fucking good. We had a review on that a couple months back, so great television there.
He's also on iZombie. Highly recommend.
Is he?
Yeah,
that's
he's
interesting. Great. Let's some of these are going to be like, I don't know, random in terms of like how we get through the review, but let's break down some of the main cast. So Kaylee Cuoco is Harley Quinn. It's a big character. At this point, like, we're talking about the character that originated in animation and was so popular that they debuted her in the comics and has now appeared in live action films. And so we've had multiple interpretations of this character. Some pretty fucking famous, not just the original version, but then also with Margot Robbie. so I feel like Harley Quinn is becoming the kind of like the Joker, where any actor stepping in to play this character, animation or live action, has a lot to live up to. You know, there's some great versions of this character all across the multiverse, as they say. But Kaylee Cuoco is fucking perfect. And honestly, I guess you wouldn't think of it offhand, but the more you think about it, the more it kind of makes sense. Like, she just has the voice in a way, especially when she gets into that very high-pitched manner. And I would be remiss, and so would Ms. Moreno, if I neglected to mention the fact that this isn't, of course, Kaylee Cuoco's first foray into voice work. Don't forget the Disney Channel animated series Brandy and Mr. Whiskers, where she was Brandy. That's where, you know, I think that was one of her first big roles, really.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah.
That's where I first remember Chloe from, and then I saw her on Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
She had an interesting career, by the way. Like she did that. She did Big Bang Theory for 12 seasons. She also did the Priceline commercials with William Shatner. She just did this show on HBO Max with The Flight Attendant, and she thinks she signed an overall deal with Warner Media. She has an interesting career going on for her right now.
I mean, I hope she does well.
Yeah.
I forgot about that Priceline commercial. Oh my god.
Yeah.
he just brought back a memory.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
No, but you're right. Like you wouldn't have expected her in this role, especially because mostly because and when she first came out, she had that one unique voice, which is just like very high pitched.
Yeah.
Like almost kind of squeaky, I guess, voice and everything. So I really like that they kind of just made her do her own voice and not just make her kind of create like a new version or something, or just or a similar version from the original. Like, no, this sounds like it's really her voice and everything. And it worked so well with this one. I don't think I can even imagine the original voice actress like doing this role.
I don't even know who that is by name, you know?
I don't remember her name, but like if you look her up,
right,
you'll find a little giant fucking list of roles she's done. It's right. That happens with a lot of voice actors.
And that was in an era where like there was kind of a monopoly on voice actors, you know? Like they did a bunch of stuff. You know, I also can't say that I'm too particular because, you know, the Batman animated series, I remember watching sequences and I remember certain scenes, but I couldn't even name a single episode of the series, in large part because I never saw it. It just wasn't one of the things that I was exposed to as much as other programs. The same thing goes with the Superman animated series. Like I think the most I can remember I did see a lot of Justice League. That was one of the ones that I did see more than the other DC animated shows at that time in the early 2000s. And there were some episodes that had featured Joker and Harley Quinn, the same, I guess, versions from the Batman animated series. Like, because if I'm not mistaken, like they all take place in the same like verse, like Batman, Superman, and Justice League, right? Like all those animated series, because the animation of the style is all similar, and then they all kind of feel like they're all in one, you know? So there's that. No, but Harley, you know, it's hard to do something meaningful with a character that is so prone to falling back on her worst tendencies, you know? Like kind of the hardest part, first of all, maybe the hardest first thing was to convincingly separate her from the Joker and for her to be willing for that. And in season 1, I think they do a pretty great job of committing to that because they don't really resolve that until the end of season 1. Like, first and foremost, she gets into like this anger mode But then, as the season progresses, the Joker treats her kind of like an equal, quote unquote. And he starts to woo her, and she starts getting wooed. And she then ditches her crew and her friends who are in need at that particular moment, and she falls back to being friendly with him, only for the same cycle to repeat itself, in which she is used as a distraction for Joker's getaway from Batman. And I think...
Even Batman...
Yeah, even Batman...
was like... Even he was just like... Harley, you knew nothing was gonna change. Come on.
Yeah. Batman, by the way, is amazing in this. I mean, he's used sparingly, but he's mainly just used for humor in any situation. Like there's some great exchanges he has with Alfred, especially in season 2. Which, by the way, Alfred was voiced by Tom Hollander, and if you remember, Tom Hollander is the actor that portrayed Lord Cutler Beckett in the Pirates of the Caribbean films, particularly 2 and 3. He was the main villain of those movies, behind the East India Trading Company. If you can even remember those movies, by the way, they happened a long, long time ago. But what I really love Batman, aside from his interactions with Joker and Harley, just as a real quick aside, then I'll get back to Harley Quinn, is how he's used as a foil kind of for Jim Gordon, which, by the way, is hysterical as this kind of like belligerent drunk, like, and kind of the worst version of Gordon, where like he's a good guy, but he kind of is.
He just can't handle.
He
all
phones
these
it
villains.
in. He just he just can't. He can't do it.
Oh my god, I absolutely love this character from the first episode. Like I get he cannot handle that there are so many villains, like, and every single day there's always a bad guy trying to destroy the city or trying to explode a building and everything, and he's just like, he's losing his shit all the time. And even though they went by it super, super quickly, though, like I still like that. Again, they took the time for each character. That they took the time with him to kind of like become better. And so that you have this moment though where he's talking to, it's his niece or daughter, I can't remember, but it's
his daughter, Barbara Gordon,
okay.
who is Batgirl.
Okay, I could have sworn it was like niece or something. Oh, never mind. But yeah, he's talking to Barbara Gordon, and she's just kind of like, "You're losing your mind, Dad. Like, you gotta do something about this." And then he's just like, "You're right. Come on." It's like, "Come on, Barbara. Let's do a little montage where I get sober up, and then we'll have a father-daughter moment." And you literally get that moment. It's just a montage of him getting rid of all his booze and just becoming a better detective. It's just like, it just skips right over that. But I mean, even though it would have been cool to like actually see him go through I guess rehab and all that, I still like that they still did that though. He still kind of made him gave him an arc in some way for this show, and it's great.
Yeah, I in particular though with I love the relationship that they give him with Batman, where like Gordon is like, "Come on, you're my best friend. Like, just give me a chance to drive around the Batmobile." And that finally happens toward the end of season 2, where like he has no choice, because like, like the whole thing with them is like Gordon is like views Batman as his best friend, and Batman's like, we're work friends more than anything, okay? And even if that, we're here for business, not so much for pleasure. And Gordon is like, no. And there's some sad moments with him, because like, I think with season 1 especially, like he offhandedly mentions, his non-existent relationship with his wife. Just this really sad but hilarious like attachment he grows with Clayface's hand. There's even a picture of it that he keeps in his wallet that you see in season 2, which only just speaks to how sad the whole thing was, but that it meant to him. But one of my favorite things that he does when he's talking to the Gotham PD is like how he addresses them like men and Cheryl, because Cheryl Cheryl's the only like I guess female cop. I mean, that's around. Like, how many times does he say men and Cheryl? Just like, and I think at one point he even mentions that she's there because of to fill a quota or something. I don't know. It's just so funny, man. It's like yeah. But with Harley, it's hard to establish an arc for that character, right? But they do it, and she does get to a point where she is overcoming some of her worst tendencies, although not completely, but she's trying. And I think that really does matter in this context. And they give it the time, they give it the space, we see her, having so many setbacks, and she makes so many mistakes, left and right. Personal mistakes with the relationships, and then also in terms of like where she wants to position herself. Like in season 1, especially, where she's really just trying to make a name for herself and her crew, there are some, I don't know, like, I wouldn't necessarily call some of these examples like incompetent, but it's, I guess, just a complete lack of luck, or maybe a complete lack of, I don't know, style, where she this is where they borrow the sitcom trope, where she just happens to fall into ridiculous situations. One of the episodes, which is one of my favorites, is she's trying to find her nemesis. Basically, like her nemesis, like who's going to be the superhero, like who's going to be the Batman to her Joker, basically. She's trying to find like who it is. Quick, stick a pin in that. Quick thing about this world and this universe. So, supervillains are more than just a thing. There apparently is some side spectrum or side group of people who follow supervillains as if they were social media influencers, because they get invited to do talk show appearances, left and right. And it almost makes you wonder if the writers on the show are making some kind of commentary, like, if supervillains were a thing, would this be exactly the unfortunate way the media would treat them in giving them airtime because they're celebrities? I don't know if that was an intended thing they were trying to say with that, but it's there. Back to this nemesis thing. The media apparently labels Damian Wayne, Robin, 12-year-old Robin, as Harley Quinn's nemesis. And here we have Damian Wayne, voiced by Jacob Tremblay.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. That's really cool.
But it's hysterical. It's hysterical because, okay, to an extent, maybe it kind of makes sense. You have Harley Quinn, who is the former sidekick of the Joker, I guess. And then you have Robin, who is the notorious sidekick of Batman. And so, like, here they are, the sidekicks going on their own and getting their own nemesises. I guess that's, or nemesis. I don't know. That's the Nemesis. I don't know, man. But it's hysterical because they're basically staging these appearances, and it's a whole unfortunate outcome for Harley. But it's hysterical because she ends up being assigned this 12-year-old boy as her nemesis. And it all ends up in a place where, of course, it would all be so hilariously evil, evilly funny. Yeah, but there's a good performance to Kaylee. A softer side to Harley that we see, especially blossom in the second season, when, spoiler alert, she begins to realize that she has romantic feelings for Ivy. And we see her come to some concessions that she, because of who she is, understands why, the person that she's expressed feelings for is very, holds reservations against even attempting to do something with her, because she just doesn't trust her with her feelings. Speaking of, let's get to Ivy here. I don't know if bad bitch is the way to describe Ivy, but I mean, I guess she's one if there ever was one. She is. We've already, touched on how she is a principled villain. Like, to some extent, there's some principled villains out there, but with her, they're tied in, I guess, more so with a political ideology, because she is, poison ivy and she's friends with plants. She somehow acts as the savior, protector, defender of plants. And so she seeks out those that destroy the planet, pollute the planet. And she's very fucking powerful too. Like, her skill set are, and correct me if I'm wrong, and again, I'm a novice when it comes to extensive history and knowledge of DC animated series or comics, but it almost feels like Ivy's powers are elevated here, because they're just like, she's really fucking powerful. Like, she can, maybe that's why she's really on her own for the most part, because she doesn't really need to be in a crew.
Mm-hmm.
She's so powerful and popular, by the way, that there's a storyline in the first season where, because of her association with Harley Quinn, she's the only reason why Harley Quinn's crew were given an invitation to the League of Doom.
Oh yeah, that was funny. That's funny. I don't know if, I think they might have elevated. I'm not sure. I don't know much about her in the comics, so, but yeah, I really like that they actually made her like super powerful and all, but then they took the time to like really not put her to the side, but like not make her interfere much with the story unless I guess she's like really needed. But yeah, but you're 100% right. Bad bitch is the best way to describe her.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And then what I liked about her from the very beginning is that how they established the relationship between her and Harley, and basically saying the reason why she cares about Harley so much is because Harley was her therapist. She actually helped her. She goes, it's like, I couldn't stand being around people, and now I still can't stand them, but I can tolerate it enough not to like kill them or anything, so you really helped me. And so I really like how they established that from the beginning, and they actually showed us an episode where they actually had like a therapy session and everything. I thought that was really nice.
They basically show us the origin of their relationship when they were in, I believe it was Arkham or so, but this is before Harley's own infamous story origin, where she, falls in love with the Joker and she's thrown into a vat of chemicals, I guess, that bleaches her skin, and then she becomes Harley Quinn. But before that, she was Dr. Harleen Quinzel, working with Detective Gordon, right? Batman, and then also at that point Harvey Dent before he was Two-Face. And you see at that point where they first met each other, and Harley was the first person to really kind of break through to Ivy, to open up. Like, you wouldn't have expected that, but that's where it all started from. But then you also see a lot of the Joker, which I don't want to cut. Well, let's not get to him just yet, but I want to stick with Ivy. She, I was really invested in, I guess, I don't want to call it a love triangle, because it really involves it does involve three people, I guess you could say. But it doesn't. It never comes across. It never feels like the kind of like typical love triangles that are kind of forced to be there. I think the best kind of love triangles are where you're invested, with both potential relationships. And so the crux that we have here is Kite Man, hilariously enough, is a loser. Is just a loser in terms of supervillain standards. He's fucking Kite Man. Like, this is the world where, you know, the Batman villains are running around. And we're talking about Kite Man. So when they first interact, it's very much like Ivy is like, what the fuck are you doing talking to me, man? Get out of my face. And then Kite Man is, I don't know if he's immediately endearing. Like, he becomes endearing the more time you get to, like, spend with him. But, like, off the bat, he does act like a joke player. Not like he's a player, like, but he's just like a wannabe one. Like, I don't know if it's the voice actor, but initially when Kite Man was introduced, it reminded me kind of like Jerry from Rick and Morty. You know, someone who means well, but can't ever do well because of who he is. And oftentimes, you know, just, you know, doing stupid shit and saying the worst things at the wrong time. And just like, because he uses overly, he goes way over the top when he's trying to, I guess, tell her that he is attracted to her. He doesn't have to really use the words that he's using, and it's kind of unfortunate because it just comes across like he's trying way too hard, and then it just kind of makes him look like a loser, maybe more so than what we originally associated Kite Man to be. But never in a million years did you ever think you'd see a show in which Poison Ivy falls in love with Kite Man. And yet here we have it in the year of our Lord, 2021. Or 2019 when it first began. But it's one of those odd couple things. You can't explain it. And everybody says it to her, like, what the fuck? Like, what do you see in this person?
Yeah.
But it becomes a relationship you also root for because you see them in a lot of moments where they're actually really good for each other, you know? At the same time, while the more you get to know them, the more you understand, like, well, Kite Man really is this straight up basic bitch, I guess. They even call him, like, he wants what he wants, he likes what he likes, he's a straight up guy, and he's also endearing. You know, he's a good guy, ultimately. He's a good guy. I don't know why he's a supervillain or a villain. I don't never really see him commit any crimes, he's just around. But
yeah, that's true.
You know, you never see any of that. He's just there.
I think he's just a thief in the comics. Like, he just robs stuff, and I don't think we ever see that. Except for like one episode where he does help out, but yeah, I don't think you ever see him do anything bad. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, Ivy also is not one for a lot of decision making and you know, like, thinking way out into the future. You know, she's just not that kind of person. And something pretty seismic happens in season 2. Like, you'd think that throughout season 1, you're looking at a really great friendship between Harley and Ivy. But then it ends up blossoming into something that, I have to say, I kind of expected it only because I was aware that's what happens. I was aware at some point that Harley and Ivy were going to have feelings. And so, unfortunately, I couldn't have experienced that cold as ideally one would like to have. Now, since you did mention that you were this is one of the shows you were watching week to week, what was it like for you for the show to go in that direction with these two characters? And how do you think overall they handled it?
I I think they handled it very well, actually. I kind of expected them to be together. I was just sort of, but they did a good job. The first thing they did a good job on was that they made you care about her and Kite Man's relationship. And I know you said that you kind of didn't see it as a love triangle. And I mean, I understand because, you knew right away that it was going to end up being with Harley and Ivy. But again, you can
sometimes the best of love triangles, you see a mile away who is going to end up with who.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of them work out that. Like, we all knew in the Hunger Games who Katniss was going to end up with. We all knew. If you even remember those movies. I did. I read the books, so I remember those movies.
I didn't care much about those movies, so I actually didn't. I had no idea who she was going to end up with.
Okay, what about Twilight? I hear your sister did watch the Twilight movies.
Yeah, and I did watch them as they came out.
I never saw a single one of them, so I don't know.
Yeah, okay, that one was pretty obvious. She was going to choose Edward and all that. Okay, yeah, true. But again, what they did a good job though is that you could tell right away that Ivy was going to care about Kite Man, and she was starting to fall in love with him. But what they handled even better though is that when she started getting feelings for Harley, you kind of saw the struggle with her, because it's like Kite Man is a great guy, like he does love her. Probably one of the only people in the world that can like tolerate her in a way. But at the same time though too is that she can't tell if Harley's in love with her because she actually like loves her, or is this just another attachment that you're getting to, like with the Joker. And I really like how they kind of just took the time to kind of establish like, no, this is leading into a true love story in a way. And I can't remember how they ended it with her and Kite Man. I think it was just kind of like Kite Man realized.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I just watched it so I can tell you exactly how this went down. And I appreciated the fact that they gave Kite Man at least that much dignity to say, look, like he wasn't, because I cared for him at the end of the day, and I didn't want, even though, yeah, you do want to see Harley and Ivy together, you don't want to see Kite Man be stood up like that. That's just, no one wants to see that. But it was Kite Man that said, look, you don't want to marry me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he wasn't happy, but he also wasn't angry. Like, it's just not what you want. Otherwise, he would have said it immediately. But you hesitated at the altar. Like, even, and it was hilarious. Like, Ivy straight up says, like, after the person who's going to ordain them, I guess, was saying all these things about like what life, what married life is going to be like. And then there's this moment where at the altar, Ivy is like, wow, that's a lot of things I never considered for a single moment. That's a red flag, people. You don't say those things at the altar.
Oh my god.
You don't say those things at the altar. So there is that. Yeah, and they do, because of how badly burned she was by the Joker, Harley really did, early on in the season, kind of become really cynical against this whole notion of like real love or something, because she really went hard at what's his name, Mr. Freeze? Is it Mr. Freeze or Dr. Freeze?
Mr. Freeze?
Yeah. Because, like, Mr. Freeze genuinely came across as authentic when he kept saying, like, okay, these are my reasons for why I'm a bad guy and, what I'm doing here. And, like, as far as, like, villains and prisons are concerned, like, he was very, like, accommodating. Like, he treated them to a steak dinner, at his, like, Crystal Palace. And the entire time, like, Harley's like this, he's exactly like the Joker. He never cared about me. He doesn't care about her. Because the whole thing with Mr. Freeze is that his betrothed is frozen because there's this blood disorder that would kill her if she wasn't frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And then she is stunned when, she releases his wife, and she's like, assuming that they had found a cure for her, and Harley's like, what the fuck? And then later on, when she sees that Mr. Freeze just sacrifices himself, he gives his blood for her to live. That was a really good episode, by the way. I just wanted to say that out there.
That was a great episode. Actually, like a great death for another like big character. This is a big character too. Like Scarecrow, I mean, I guess you could say he's big, but I feel like Mr. Freeze is like top 3 main villains for Batman and all that, especially because he like his episode in the Batman anime series became like super famous when it first came out and all that. So I think that was a cool thing that they did.
And the emotion of that sequence landed, like you felt that sacrifice for her, and it's like, man, like what the fuck is how this show has no right being this good. Like think about how much you felt for that moment. You felt for Mr. Freeze, and then think about how much you didn't feel for any of the Justice League and any of those movies you saw in the last 10 years.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's excellent. And then I love the fact though later on they invited Mr. Freeze's wife to Ivy's bachelor party. And Harley's just like, I mean, I just had to invite her. Like, look at her. She's still so sad about what happened. But then, like, I think she goes crazy right in the party.
I think that episode is, for many reasons, a great example for why the show is so great. First of all, the concept is hilarious. You have this like really mismatched group of a bachelorette party where you have the bridesmaids, you have Harley and Ivy, but then who do they get? They get Mr. Freeze's widow now. They get Catwoman, and they get Jen, who is an old, I guess, childhood friend of Ivy's. Not exactly the kind of party I think anybody would have in mind. Like you get a grieving widow at that point, you kind of revealed how little you have to choose from. But what makes that episode just, I think, extra special is that where they go to do the bachelorette party, and that is Themyscira. Themyscira, the hidden island / home of the Amazons, Wonder Woman's people. And it's just like, you see, this is one of these examples of like you would only dream of something like this, with the films. Like the films can never seemingly ever do that because they've decided that it's just no longer worth it. They've decided they fucked up so badly, there's just no point in even bothering with it. But you see in this instance how great it all works together. And that resort was beautiful too, in Themyscira. But yeah, no, that was so good. That particular episode you mentioned there. Let me get to some of the other ensemble here. So let's look at. So Dr. Psycho is an interesting one. We've already mentioned him. He is voiced by Tony Hale. Tony Hale, who we know from Veep. Veep, he played, I think, Selena Meyer's handler. And then he also, maybe more so known for Arrested Development. He played Buster. And he's also the voice of Forky from Toy Story.
Okay.
So here he is. And I'm sure there are other roles of his that I'm missing, but that's, I think, some of the ones that stick out to mind. But here he is, Dr. Psycho. And I don't know if it's just the nature of that of that character where he's one of those characters where you just love to see him get angry and pissed off. And every now and then he'll drop in a slur. And part of the thing is, like, it's not just like an isolated thing. Like, he genuinely hates women. I think it even gets to a point where he says, I literally hate women.
Does he?
Yeah, no, he does. Yeah. Yeah. Toward the end, because like he in season 1 really assimilates to, you know, being part of the crew, and it's a serious downgrade for him. He was a member of the League of Doom, and he was first fired, and then he was brought back as a lackey, as he says. And then as season 2 progresses and as Harley becomes less and less committed to this whole evil thing, you know, because at first she is taking down, I guess, the bosses of New Gotham or New Gotham. But she pulls away from that, and there are clear differences where she doesn't consider herself to be a bad person. She's just a bad guy. I think they make the distinction. We're not bad people, we're just bad guys. Whereas Psycho very clearly, name making sense here, enjoys in that kind of activity, I guess you could say. And he ends up betraying them at the end of season 2.
Yep.
In a way that actually felt pretty consistent with who he is, and it was interesting to see how it all worked together. Again, it's one of the episodes. Harley Quinn wants to, I forget who she wants to get rid of. I think she wants to get rid of Two-Face, who's the last boss standing, and they need an army, and so they literally travel through an interdimensional portal and ask Darkseid for an army. Who thinks of crap like this? And then in with the help of Psycho, Harley Quinn ends up beating Granny Goodness. She inherits the parademons. Are they parademons? Mm-hmm. And then she abandons them, and then Psycho's like, fuck this. I'm gonna do this myself. I'm gonna first betray you. I'm gonna team up with the Riddler. Do some weird shit with him, where like he's kind of imprisoned at their lair, which, by the way, their lair is an abandoned mall, which is hilarious in and of itself. But he's imprisoned in their lair, and he's, you know, forced to be on this hamster wheel where he's kind of the source of electricity. And as, you know, the season progresses, he has really kind of he gets a pretty great bod as a result of it. And the show makes so many, you know, they take a lot of time to repeatedly point that out. And it even gets to the Riddler's head where he's just showing off his calves. And one of the funniest moments in when Psycho reveals that he and Riddler are together to Harley. I think Harley is with King and Clayface and Psy, and they're at, I think, the top of Wayne Tower. And where Psycho reveals that he's together with the Riddler. And it's hilarious to me, especially, I think it was most of them, but especially Clayface, just assume that when he said we're together, that they were involved romantically. and Psycho got so pissed off because he repeatedly had to correct that. No, we're not fucking, is what he literally says.
Dr. Psycho has like some of my favorite jokes, man. And like you said though, he is a bad person, but he's one of my favorite characters just because he has some hilarious jokes. So like one of them, the first one, it was when they were inside Harley's mind, and he's trying to tell them the rules of when you're inside a person's mind, and he goes, "Okay, listen up. Okay, we're inside someone's mind. Okay, so hooker rules." It's like no kissing in the mouth. No, sorry, stripper rules. Yeah. No touching. Okay,
and he meant that seriously. It wasn't like he said that straight up. Like he wasn't even saying saying it for laughs, like he was saying a joke, like, he just meant it seriously. Like, yeah, sorry, stripper rules.
And then, so somehow Ivy became like a giant. And then for some reason, like Dr. Psycho, he's just like very into tall women. So when he sees Ivy as this large woman, he just pulls out somebody, just like, hey, take your top off. He's the worst person, but I don't know, I find it fucking hilarious.
No, okay, yeah, most of the things that he says are pretty hilarious. Like, even toward the end, where, Riddler and Psycho are still teamed up, and at this point, the Justice League have been freed from their prison. And Riddler's like, yeah, I don't know. I think we're not gonna make it out of this. This seems like the odds are stacked against us. All the while, still flexing his calves in front of Psycho's face, and then Psycho just screams, "Stop showing off your calves! I'm not gonna fuck you." And then it cuts to Riddler just like with this disappointed look in his face, as if he's sad about that, and it's.
And wasn't there a joke though that like Riddler was becoming dumber as he became more toned?
Yeah, he was, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's funny. Oh yeah.
So that's Dr. Psycho. I'm really curious to see how he's handled in season 3. Since he very much he made a very deliberate split from the crew. So next we have, I love him, Clayface. Oh my god. Everything this character does just cracks me up. He basically is, and I'm being serious here, although I guess he's a little bit more capable in his abilities. But he's basically, this version of Clayface is like Trevor Slattery from Iron Man 3. Trevor Slattery, portrayed by Ben Kingsley, the fake Mandarin. I'm an actor. Yeah. That's, that's basically who this character is, and that he's obsessed with like the performance of it all, and and being an actor, and he's a thespian, and he has the voice and how he enunciates certain things, and it always comes at the expense of his primary responsibility, which is being a muscle in Harley Quinn's crew. What's really hilarious, like he gets so like involved in the backstory is of the characters he creates. When I guess he goes like with Clayface, he has the ability to appear however he wants to. There's this amazing example where in the episode where they're infiltrating Riddler University. That's a thing, by the way, in the show. They're infiltrating Riddler University, and he's disguised as this popular college girl, and it weirdly works. Where she's just successfully infiltrated the corners of popularity where she's in the know. Because there's a big mystery in that episode. But Clayface is just so committed. He's very committed to it. Even when they're fucking caught, and he and Harley and Ivy are imprisoned in hamster wheels in Riddler's prison to generate electricity. It takes, like, he could get out anytime, and it doesn't take into Harley and Ivy to point out, what the fuck are you doing? Get us out of this. And there's even the best example where in one of the final episodes of season 2, where he's being mind controlled by Psycho, he ends up like becoming like 100 feet tall and like causing this destruction. And Harley was like, what the fuck, Clayface? You telling me you could do this the whole time, but instead you're so focused on these characters? Like, I literally...
Oh god, I just totally forgot about that. Oh my god. That's so great.
No, so but and again, especially how he is used even in the closing moments of season 2 as the wedding is like falling to pieces and there's literally flames bursting left and right, and he breaks into song. The song oh my god, I love this so much, especially in the wedding, because his whole thing in that episode is he's trying to impress this Hollywood person, this big time director, because he wants to get a part. And so it ends up that this director is Catwoman's plus one. And it's Tim fucking Burton, of all people. Tim Burton, who, he has a history with DC films. He, did 2 Batman movies, one of which involved a Catwoman. Get it? I was just like laughing out loud. I was laughing so hard when he's like Tim Burton. I'm like, of course it's fucking Tim Burton.
I just got that. God damn it. I did not piece it together. I completely forgot that he directed a Batman movie.
Doesn't it?
Oh my god.
He directed 2 Batman movies.
2 Batman movies, yeah. That's great. Holy shit.
Yeah. The payoff for the writing is so great. It's so great here. And then you have I forgot to say that Clayface is played by Alan Tudyk. Alan Tudyk is great in anything, but Alan Tudyk does a lot of voices here. He does the voice for Clayface, Calendar Man, Dr. Trap, Condiment King, and you know what? We'll get to him now since it is Alan Tudyk. Joker. Again, this is a character who has had many versions, many actors stepping up to play him. Alan Tudyk does a great fucking Joker. It's not Mark Hamill. Clearly it's not Mark Hamill, but it's as close as you can get to imitating that sound,
Heck yeah.
The laugh is perfect. The delivery is perfect. And this Joker is, again, it's kind of that balance of all the other characters. He is as maniacal and as horrid as the Joker should be. But there's also, I guess, a person in there. And the interesting thing they do with him is when everyone assumes he's dead, he does kind of a reverse engineer Harley Quinn where he falls in a vat, but instead of him getting worse, he kind of becomes a different person. He loses his memory. His skin looks different. And he ends up having a whole other life. And sooner or later, that's going to be reversed. And when it is, and it's done so in a very interesting way, in a way you wouldn't expect. I'm not going to give that away. Although, if you've been listening, I think you kind of know. If you've watched it, well, you know how it happens. But what they do here is, I guess they actually give him kind of a dilemma of sorts with him. The Joker is this character where, the hardest thing he ever has to decide is who he kills first and, who he kills louder, longer. But in this case, I guess they really do give him a relationship that he considered to be substantial enough to where even as he returns as his persona of the Joker, he returns to his girlfriend and his girlfriend's kids. This is the kind of show where so Joker ends up having an alter ego and a whole, life with a girlfriend and kids, and then he ends up coming back to his old self, and he stays with them, all the while procuring a magical book which entrapped the Justice League, which they need to unleash to help battle Darkseid's army of parademons that is being led by Psycho. That's the show, everyone. That's this show. That's just how crazy things get. There are even, and again, as we mentioned earlier, how emotional moments land. There's, examples with King Shark, who, oh my God, he is his own, brand of hilarious. Again, because of other versions, I just assume, how are they going to do this King Shark? This King Shark is just a dumb monster, basically. But no, he's not. He's actually a person, and I don't know how you feel about this, but sometimes he comes across like a teddy bear.
That's I was about to say. Like he's an adorable character. Honestly, like he really, really is. It's just like he's like the nicest person in the group, almost in a way. And I don't know. It's the voice actor really. Like the voice actor does an amazing job of just portraying
the voice,
this adorable.
man. The voice really, really fucking sells it. Honestly, he's great. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and other moments. So with him, King Shark, there's even a moment with him where like he goes back to his underwater world and he marries Tabitha, who he's been avoiding, and even that's kind of a whole like there's this really awful memory that's unlocked when Psycho's invading their minds, and it turns out that he ate his younger brother. But with Psy, now he's a real interesting one because at first you think he's a nuisance. You know, he's just kind of like the annoying landlord. And Psy here is played brilliantly by sitcom legend Jason Alexander from Seinfeld. And he kind of sacrifices himself in a really touching way that lands in the show to help Harley escape while Psycho is, about to capture them, maybe even kill them. And he literally blows himself up for them to get away. It's kind of undone a little bit. Like he ended up transferring his consciousness over to a chip, but he died. His body is gone. But it says a lot that he, it shows how far that character came because he's the one that no one liked in the beginning. And then here he is and like stealing the spotlight and saving the day for them especially. Oh, and this one, he's just there to be there, but man, does he add a lot of comic relief in a show that's filled with it, by the way. But you have the brilliant J.B. Smoove. J.B. Smoove, if you've seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, he plays Leon, Larry's roommate. And he also played one of the school teachers in Spider-Man Far From Home. Not the main one, but a side one. And so here he is as Frank the Plant.
Oh, okay.
Frank the Plant, who is, I think, Ivy's original roommate, shall we say. And, oh God, it's just hilarious. Like he's, I guess he's kind of become a fan favorite because in season two, they did some interesting things where like, I think 2 or 3 of the episodes, they had some really out of the box openings for the episodes. One of those involved Frank the Plant addressing the audience, saying like, what a great season it's been, like almost like as if he was like recapping a reality show or something. Breaking it down to the audience, kind of recapping us like what we've seen, with and kind of just like talking up the show. It's like all this great comedy and that got tense too. And I'm just here because the writers wanted to. I guess you guys wanted to see more of me, so I'm just inserted here, for reasons. He's great. This even, oh God, it's really disgusting. At the end of the last episode, he gets trapped in this, I guess, truck full of plants that they had originally, and flowers that they had originally, what was supposed to be at the wedding. And they ended up being locked in there because Gordon and his cops are trying to, bust Ivy. And they can't let Ivy have any flowers near her, otherwise they'll all be dead before they walk in the door. And as everyone's like, as pandemonium is breaking, you cut to the truck and you hear like this, and you see the truck going up and down and squeaking, and you see Frank the Plant like moaning in pleasure. I mean, you don't see, you hear. And you only know what that means. Again, no, you know the kind of show we're talking about here. It's exactly what they do. And yeah. Any other are the characters or storylines you want to mention? I can just go up and down the list here, but like There's a bunch of them that we've already talked about. I really liked Barbara Gordon in season 2.
Yeah, I like that we got her origin in this show. I did not expect that. I just assumed every other character was just already formed and everything. But no, I like that they took her time to form an origin. And I mean, again, I liked her origin. Her dad was losing his shit, so she was like, okay, I'm gonna take over for him, basically. And yeah.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I wonder if we'll see more of Lex Luthor in the future. He's a pretty big villain.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he's voiced by Giancarlo Esposito. Giancarlo Esposito, who is currently playing Moff Gideon on The Mandalorian.
Okay.
Playing, but I'd argue he's doing nothing. Let's see here. Oh, Vanessa Marshall, Hera Syndulla herself, does the voice of Wonder Woman. We see very little of her and Superman and the rest of the Justice League. They spend most of the time being trapped in a book. But what little there is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. I liked the episode. It was the Nemesis episode. And when Robin comes in and Superman is there, Superman tries to like encourage Robin to be going like, okay, get ready, bud. It's like, this is your first time fighting your Nemesis and everything. Just kind of like being supported and everything. I thought that was funny.
So guess what? This is perfect. So the voice of Commissioner James Gordon here is Christopher Maloney. Christopher Maloney, who is best known for his television roles as NYPD Detective Elliot Stabler on the NBC legal drama Law and Order SVU for its first 12 seasons.
Oh my god. Of course.
Perfect fucking casting here. And then also, we just talked about Mr. Freeze and how great he was. He's played by Doc Ock himself, Alfred Molina.
Oh, that's cool.
These are just great, man. Like I it's just like you're not seeing the actors themselves, so like you just wouldn't expect it, right? But just like part of the fun is finding out who actually play. And Wayne Knight, he did the voice of the Penguin. If you don't know Wayne Knight, he is most known for a bunch of stuff, really. He was on Seinfeld, but he also did the voice of the Chicken Man in Toy Story 2. And he was also in Jurassic Park. So Wanda Sykes, the Queen of Fables, who I guess died. She got her fucking head chopped off.
I liked her episode where she finally came back to her normal self and everything, and then you realize, oh my god, you're a horrible person. Like, so I like her story where she was basically trying to become the best supervillain in the world, and because of that, the Justice League trapped her in the book, and they played it off as like, oh, if a woman tries to become like the biggest supervillain, they'll get the worst punishment. But when the man tries to become like the best supervillain, they just get thrown to Arkham. And it's just like, and I thought that was kind of funny because that would probably happen. I don't know. But then when you get her as a human form and you realize like, oh no, you're literally the worst villain. Like not just like most powerful, but like you're literally a horrible person. And he had this this kind of funny joke of they were basically witnesses and everything. They were like, and she goes, okay, I guess I gotta kill the witnesses, and you also gotta kill the family. And Harley's just like, well, why do you have to kill the family? It's like, because someone will come back and get revenge on you.
That shit was dark. Holy
my
fuck.
God.
I just remembered that.
That's exactly what happened though. It's like someone survived in like the family tree and everything, and they try to go, and they somehow got powers as that happened, and so he tried to get revenge. And then when he tried to like fight them, what's her name? Queen of Fables.
Yeah.
She just goes, I told you gotta go after the whole family here.
Yeah, because I mean, like, the whole John Wick situation, right? which is basically what ends up happening with her.
Mm-hmm.
It's hysterical, and it's a show that actually is improving, getting better as it goes along, and I can't wait to see what's next of it. Do you have any other like favorite moments or episodes that come to mind that you want to discuss about the show?
The episode where they go into Harley's mind. I think.
Oh yeah,
that's an amazing fucking episode. So basically the episode is they're trying to find a lair, but Harley is just undecisive. She can't think of a good place for her. She can't really decide like what's the best lair for her. And when they try to like saying like, have you ever made a decision in your life, basically, she kind of like freezes up. And so they go into her mind to fix her problem and everything. And you just basically get like her whole life story. One funny joke was they see like her kid version of her, and she starts attacking them, the whole group. And when they get away from her, Ivy goes, I'm actually kind of glad to know that you've always been this fucked up. It's not something like a little moment in her time to just snap, but like, no, you've always been this crazy. I think it's kind of cool to know. It's fucked up, but also kind of like, yeah, kind of true. But basically she realized that there was this piece of memory missing of her origin story where Joker and Harley were in that factory where she like dumped into the chemicals and that's how her hair changed and her skin changed and all that. And for the longest time she believed that Joker pushed her, like she forced her to do this and all that. And when she realized the truth is that the Joker didn't push her, she jumped in on her own. She decided on her own. And it kind of like made her sad because she kind of thought that this whole villain persona that she put on wasn't really much of a choice and that she was forced into this. But no. And she realized, okay, I did have a choice. I did make a decision, and now I'm going to make another one. And she decides that day at the factory wasn't her origin story. Her origin story now is her destroying Joker's lair. And that's how she becomes like, that was the day she decided to become her own woman. That was the day she decided to get away from the Joker. And I think that's just a really cool thing because, people think like, oh, like I have to start in this moment now to like get my life together or something. It's like, no, you can get your shit together, or you can decide your career path or whatever big decisions you make. You can make that at any point in your life, and that's okay. And so it's just a really great episode.
Yeah. I don't know if I can name a personal favorite. I guess the one that I'm thinking about the most is just the Nemesis one. But I mean, they're all great, to a certain extent.
For sure.
Like it all makes for great viewing experience. And so I love this show. I think it's kind of great. And I feel like if you're a fan of these characters in general, you should love the show. It's pretty fucking perfect. As no show is perfect, but as great as it can be in this instance. So if that's I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up and leave it. Thank you all for listening. Of course, if you wanna watch the show, you can on HBO Max, where season 3 will be coming, and hopefully you guys watch it so we can get more seasons of Harley Quinn. As far as for what we'll be discussing next week, I'm not sure yet. There may not even be a show next week, as far as David and I are concerned. We may just take the week off because I think we've earned it at this point, if that's what happens. But we are fast approaching the arrival of Loki, and that will be the next show that we will cover on a 2-week basis. And then as far as what happens next with the other shows that we have planned, just stay tuned. And until then, you can catch your podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Castbox, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, YouTube, all of them, anywhere. Every single Sunday, sometimes Thursdays, sometimes maybe never, because we miss some dates and people have to reschedule, and it's that time of year. But thank you, David. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.